Now, there's one more thing before we play Halo that I want to talk about that's actually related to Overwatch. I don't play a lot of Overwatch. I play Overwatch very casually. But I saw something that interests me because it talks a lot about Overwatch in the context of other games. There was a clip Monte Cristo retweeted. We're going to look at it. If anyone doesn't know, Monte Cristo decided to drop down as talent on the Overwatch League. He's going to be freelancer and he's working on other things. So he's done with Overwatch. And he talked about how the conversion rate, like for example, like conversion rate, he means other forms of content related to the game. Like people who watch OWL, they don't go and that's what they don't go and subscribe to their casters or to their players or look at their podcasts or talk about like analysis of the game. And I think that there's a reason for that. But the first thing I want to do is look at the actual clip. So this is coming from Monte Cristo's retweets. This is the podcast Tactical Crouch, and Yiska over here is going to say something kind of interesting. We're going to talk about it.
Bottom line is, even if really a lot of people watch Overwatch League, they don't watch anything else. The content that is currently consumed, like some of the best esports content, such as Bloodshed, rarely cracks 20k views. Now, if we look at podcasts such as Something Inside back in the day, or even now, like Counterpoints, these biggest podcasts and these other esports that should be, okay, League is definitely bigger, we know that from the statistics, but CSGO shouldn't be. Like, why are we getting a fifth to a tenth of the viewership on these contents? No idea. Then other casters come out, such as Uber, talking about, well, by casting Overwatch, and I think it's fair to say at this point that not only is Uber the best technical play-by-play, but he's probably also the most hyped, or brings the most hype. Why is he not getting the social media following that we see from other esports? Even our like very loved people such as Sideshow and Bren in other esports in the same capacity over 2 years, they would have a way bigger following in historically in other esports. It therefore creates a situation where, honestly, and I also have to say this as someone that's thinking about his own career in esports, creates a scenario where 2020 is not looking like it's a move forward as an esports career, especially for surrounding media or talent. I think it's a death trap, if I'm being honest.
A death threat. Now, you don't use those words lightly, especially if you're doing business with Blizzard. You don't use them lightly. This is interesting, because I've considered this for a long time to be an issue with Overwatch as a game. I think, for the record, that these guys do an excellent job. I think Uber, that they mentioned, is an excellent caster. I think there's a lot of interesting analysis available. But I think this game has a fundamental issue. I think this game has a fundamental issue with the way that you can watch it, the way people play Overwatch, right? Overwatch as a game isn't that big, competitively minded. It isn't a competitively minded game. And what I mean by that is that I want to use the analysis to a fighting game in this situation. Look at everything going on the screen right now. First of all, this is super hard to follow. Look at that. This is really hard to follow. And I understand people who play a lot, and think about these things, they don't have a hard time following. I understand that, But this experience, this viewing experience, is very difficult to get behind. Versus Tekken 7, versus League of Legends, versus, which has a great top-down view, which is really... This is a visually cluttered. Okay? But more than that, this is just the viewing experience. People watch a lot of Overwatch League, though. That's not the problem. People are talking about why aren't people tuning into analysis of these games, right? And a lot of that has to do with the kind of game that Overwatch is, the kind of players that Overwatch has. A lot of people are just playing Overwatch casually. They don't think about playing Overwatch in the context of getting better. I think that one of the issues that this game has versus like a Street Fighter V versus a Dragon Ball FighterZ versus a Tekken 7, things like that. I want to look at this from an FGC perspective. how hard is it, to play Street Fighter 5 without thinking about getting better all the time? You know what I mean? It's really hard. I'll tell you that. Spoiler alert, playing Street Fighter and not getting better, just not caring about getting better is going to make your life hell to play this game, but this game is not really like that. You can play Overwatch and you can just kind of settle on being good enough, right? You don't have to. And for that reason, everything's suffering. Because, one, you have to convince people to think about the macro play that's being directed here. And two, you have to have the star power to where people can go out of their way to look up the people involved. And that's another thing. So, one is the spectating experience is really hard to get behind. Two, the game is not competitively minded all the time. And three, the star power is not there for this game. In the context of somebody playing a video game, there are some players now, especially with the rise of esports, that become kind of household names. You think about Mad Life, you think about Expeke, you think about Faker, obviously, right? You think about these huge stars that are represented for their gameplay. But there's nothing like that for this. There's no, to put it simply, where's the Daigo parry of this game? There isn't one. At least I can't name it, As kind of an outsider to Overwatch League, I can't name a moment that really just defines this game. So I think that they need to start opening. I think the game needs to become a little more punishing, a little more skill oriented. I'm not sure that's ever going to be the case for a game like this. They need to keep selling units. They can't be, slacking on sales because they make the game too hard for people. But it's no surprise to me that a game that is designed to be playable by everyone just doesn't get the analysis that you think it would, It's very interesting for me, personally, to tune in and watch stream analysis or VOD analysis of Street Fighter. But that game doesn't sell as much as this game. You know what I mean? And another thing, so we got those 3 points, and the other thing I wanted to get to was the overall content of the game. So people, come on. They're not, these people that they're referring to, these content creators, they're not just talking about the latest in like Overwatch League or LCS or, the latest major. They're talking about the game. There's nothing to talk about here. You could talk about the plays, but the game doesn't get fresh. It doesn't ever feel fresh. At all. There's never like this new update to talk about or this new meta shift, or when it happens very infrequently. It doesn't happen often enough for anyone to be like, all right, I can talk about this game all the time because there's enough interesting thing going on that, I can just make a video every week. League of Legends lets you do that. Street Fighter lets you do that if you're good, like Punk, or like Smug, like IDOM on Twitch, But this game doesn't have enough going on for you to be like, yeah, I can make a video every week about this game. I can talk about stream commentary. People are going to get bored of that. Overwatch hasn't given us enough back to talk about. So it's no surprise. And I don't think that the direction of the game right now is going to fix the problem, honestly. Because what are we getting? PvE campaigns and a new competitive format. I think the new competitive format's great. I think New Heroes is great. But the fact that this is all coming in a $60 package at some point that we don't know about, instead of continually supporting a competitive game like everybody else seems to have figured out by now, is just nuts to me. It's nuts. So that's my take.